Out of that, I didn't think about the speakers in here. So that was last year, and we had a lot of fun. All of the employees just had a great time, and it was really fun to bring people out and talk about how to scare and just get together and have a good time. All right, so now we're going to move into some of the logistics of the open interviews. This is really where the management process starts. Okay, the first thing that you want to do is you want to make sure that you have a sign-in sheet. You want everyone coming through the door to sign in. This is a great way to track which open interview dates are the most popular and will help you in future planning. So for example, we've learned that having a couple of weekday nights and then also weekends allows people who work during the week to come out on the weekends, or people who have weekend jobs to come out during the week. And so for the next year, you know when to hold those interviews. You want to make sure to take everyone's photo. What we do is we have a whiteboard, and we write their name on the whiteboard, first and last name. They hold it, and then we take their picture, and we attach that to their application. When the managers get together after the interview process, this really helps in placement. They can remember, oh, this is the person with this or that or the other, and it really triggers that memory. Of course, you want to have plenty of extra applications and employment documentation forms available, because people are going to be just walking in. We really encourage people to print out the application and fill it out before they come in. But you want to make sure that people who do walk in have the opportunity to fill out an application. You want to use customized interview questions and give these to your managers so that they have something to reference. The next slide has a lot of different sample questions on it, and we're going to go through just a few of them, but not all of them. There's some key areas here. So you have introductory questions like how they heard about the job, also a great way to find out what's working in recruitment. And then, have they ever thought about working in a haunted house before? And if so, why? You have personality questions. Those are really important for determining placement and what kind of scare that person might be good in. You can ask them to, tell them about one thing that they're proud of, to tell them about a work situation that required excellent communication skills. What types of jobs do you have the most difficulty with? And we also include questions about their comfort level in dark spaces. Do they have any allergies to fog machines, or any problems with strobe lights? Those are questions that you can include too. So any haunt kind of specific questions. And then communication and conflict, asking them how they deal with situations that may be kind of high tension. It is a lot of dark spaces, and it's crowded, and there are lots of customers coming through. So you want to find out how they react in those situations. You want to know that they're going to be comfortable and able to maintain a cool demeanor under high stress. And then the logistics. Haunts are open late. Are they going to be able to get there and get home? A lot of buses usually don't run after midnight, and finding out if they'll be able to get to work or not is really important. We also will ask people if they have any kind of funny talents during interviews. Are they able to do impersonations? Do they have a funny walk? And asking them to give examples of those during the interview process is really great. Okay, so the open interviews. The open interviews really set the tone of the season. So you want to build a sense of excitement and anticipation. And there are a few ways that you can do this. The first one is really talking to your managers beforehand and letting them know that they should be enthusiastic and upbeat, and talking about things that they're excited about. Different changes that are in the haunt, a new haunt opening, different kinds of developments over the course of the year. Make sure that they're on board and excited. And of course, you want to have your managers conducting the interviews. It really begins that relationship between the manager and the actor. The managers are the ones that are going to be working with these actors the most. So having them in the position of the interviewer really sets the tone for that relationship and lets them know that this is somebody that they're going to be reporting to. You want to have a waiting area where potential employees can interact and get to know each other. So having a big table that they can sit down and talk to each other, find out where they're from, start building those connections early. We also have former employees and returning employees on hand to help out with the check-in process. But they're also there to talk up their experiences that they had working at the Haunt. So they're there to really say, oh yeah, this was so much fun, we had a great time. And they're also there, they can answer questions about what it's like to work in a Haunt. You want to, of course, talk to these employees beforehand and let them know kind of what the agenda for the day is and what they should be doing that day. Okay, so next we're going to talk about the application, because this really is the foundation of what your database is going to look like later on. The application is not only a way to gather information about your employees, but it also informs potential hires about the Haunt's expectations and communicates that this is a real job. If they have to fill out, a few pages of information, then they're going to take this a little bit more seriously. It's going to weed out people who may think, oh yeah, I'll just go and see what it's all about. So the application really lets them know, okay, this is a serious job. There are lots of different things that you can include. Of course, you want some previous employment history and references. You want to know about any special training in relevant areas, whether they're interested in makeup, special effects, acting, or customer service. And when you're building this application, you want to think about how this data is going to be stored. What will you do with this information? For example, we really encourage people to note other areas of interest, and we track that so that when it comes time for demolition or construction, we can look to our database and say, okay, who said that they were interested in this? And easily sort and find who said they were into it and contact them and see if they want to come on board during the off-season. Finally, you definitely want to include a schedule of the season in the application. This is going to be, their work schedule. So including it in the application lets them know what nights they are going to be expected to work. It lets them know how late they are expected to be there. So we also include, which nights it may run late and how the end time may be a little bit flexible. Okay, the next part, background checks. Background checks can kind of be a touchy subject. You want to make the decision before the hiring process about conducting background checks. And background checks are not mandatory in every state, so it's a good idea to do them though to protect yourself. So for example, if you ask the question on the application if they have a criminal background and they say no, and you do a background check and it comes back with a red flag, that's gonna make you think twice about who you're hiring and maybe have a conversation with that person. But you want to check with your state to see if mandatory background checks are necessary for your Haunt, for the amusement industry. And in some states, background checks don't have to be done every year. So for example, in Pennsylvania, criminal background checks go back 3 years. So you want to find out definitely what your state requires and what level of background checks you're interested in conducting. You want to decide who will be conducting the checks. For example, there are companies like Justifax. They do not only background checks but also credential verification. There's US Search, again they do background checks, but you want to work with somebody who knows the ins and outs of this and make sure that you have all the correct language in your application and have somebody trusted to help you through that process. Of course, you want to keep this information extremely confidential. 1 or 2 people at the most should have access to it. And you want to decide how you're going to deal with criminal records and try to be consistent in those decisions. But we all know that haunts can be kind of a hectic environment, so it's important to know who you have working for you. And we are, in contact with the public, and customers are coming through every day. So it's good to have an idea of who's working in the haunt. Okay, so the placement process. You want to try to get your management team together. together directly following the last open interview. The faces and names will be fresh in their mind, and it'll be much easier to go through and place. You want to try to place directly into positions and haunts. Again, dealing with a cast of 160 people, they have to be divided among the managers. So if you can set early on which actors are responding or reporting to which managers, it's going to help a lot. Have haunt managers take responsibility for calling hired actors and confirming their availability and sharing any essential information for orientation. Callbacks are a really critical moment. Your manager should make every attempt to talk to the employee directly so that they know exactly what to expect at orientation and what to bring. Other information like where to park, and importantly, what kind of identification they're going to need to bring to complete employment forms like I-9s and W-4s. It really shouldn't be a, oh, you're hired voicemail. You really want to give as much detail as possible. You want to set a time frame for callbacks, both those who are hired and those that are not going to be hired. And during the interview process, you should let them know when they can expect to hear about whether they're hired or not. We know a lot of the employees are friends and they talk to each other. So if your managers all know, okay, callbacks need to be done between Monday and Tuesday, that's going to avoid the odd situations where one friend says, oh, hey, I heard that I'm hired, and the other person's like, well, I haven't heard anything yet, what am I going to do? So having a time frame for that is really important. And of course, you want to call the people that you're not going to hire as well. You don't want to leave them hanging because that's just good customer service. Okay, getting to the orientation. The most important thing is you want to make it manageable. If you have a cast of 160 people, split the orientation over a few different nights. Having one haunt one night, one haunt the other night. Now, for the orientation, managers should have let their employees know what they must bring. Passport, driver's license. I don't know why this is cutting out like this. But have them know that they need to bring some sort of identification so you can complete the I-9 and the W-4 paperwork. And you should have a process for checking everyone in throughout the night. Designating 1 or 2 people to do identification verification makes everything run a lot more smoothly. Okay, so we're going to get back to the flow of orientation in a second, but first I wanted to talk about the employee handbook. Orientation is the time to communicate the necessary standards, procedures, and policies that will be in place. And this is all done through your employee handbook. There are lots of different things that you can include in your employee handbook, and we're going to go over some of those key points. So first, you want to talk about at-will employment, and that's different by state, so check with your state. But at-will employment basically says that this is an at-will employer and you can be terminated. You want to have a harassment and sexual harassment policy. That's very important, not only for actors and employees dealing with customers, but actors dealing with each other. So you want to let them know that any form of harassment is not going to be okay. You want to include your payment procedures. When will they be paid? What kind of federal and state guidelines are in place, that they may see on their paychecks? What kind of taxes are being taken out? All of that kind of stuff you should include so that they understand how they're being paid and when they're being paid. A really important one is call-off procedures. For example, we don't allow employees to call off by texting us. We require that each employee has to talk to their